In this video, I'll share some basic advice for doing research for a philosophy paper. First and foremost, what is the point of research for a philosophy paper? Consider the following example. You might be writing a paper about the moral obligations of the affluent given the existence of extreme poverty around the world. You might need to know how many people are living in extreme poverty. That's a kind of research, right? You need to know what the facts are so that you can engage in moral theory. In this case, we might cite something like the World Bank that backs up a claim you're making. But this is only one kind of research, and it's not the primary kind of research you'll do for a philosophy paper. You're not just looking for sources that back up what you're saying. You're looking for a conversation to engage with. What is the background conversation to your topic? Who are the most influential or interesting or controversial voices? Or who are the voices you've been assigned to read and engage with? A good place to start is an Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and there are two really good ones that are freely available online. The first is the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the second is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy is generally more accessible to a beginning philosophy student. But let's begin with the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So you can look through the table of contents generally, or you can search. Let's just put in something like animals and see what comes up. And let's check out the moral status of animals. What you'll find in an encyclopedia entry is a general overview of the background conversation to this topic. And there's a table of contents followed by a bibliography. So again, this is a great way to familiarize yourself with the various kinds of claims and arguments and positions people have taken up, as well as a list of resources that you might be interested in reading. If you want to cite anything you've read here, the author and citation info is in the main menu here. These are peer-reviewed entries written by reputable sources, experts in this area. Now let's go back to the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Again, we can search for something like animals. Let's click on animals and ethics. Again, this is another peer-reviewed article, and the author information is at the bottom. And again, you'll find a table of contents at the top, where the goal of this entry is to present the various kinds of claims, theories, arguments that people have given in the conversation surrounding animals and ethics. Okay, another good resource for doing research, instead of using Google, check out Google Scholar. Okay, using Google Scholar is as easy as Googling. You just get peer-reviewed results. So let's type in a vague search term like eating meat. Now the first thing you'll want to do is look at what kind of source has been returned. So eating meat and eating people by Cora Diamond, philosophy. This looks like the kind of thing that is a relevant participant in our background conversation, whereas eating meat, evolution, patterns, and consequences on population, and this doesn't sound like the kind of thing we're looking for. So you can get a sense of whether or not you are returning results that will be relevant to writing a philosophy paper or something that is from a more empirical discipline, though of course there are important overlaps between the two. Anyway, another thing that you'll find with Google Scholar is that they oftentimes come with PDFs. So Eating Meat and Eating People is a fairly famous paper in philosophy, and this links you straight to a PDF of this paper. It's an interesting paper. You might want to check it out. Likewise, Puppies, Pigs, and People, another popular paper that you might check out. Now, when you're deciding which sources are relevant to your paper, a good thing to do is read the abstract or introductory paragraphs. If they've written a helpful introduction or abstract, it'll tell you what's going to happen in the paper, so you'll know whether or not it fits your interest. And that's something that you should try to do for your own papers. Write introductions that give a general reader a sense of what specifically this paper will be about. Okay, another thing that you can use to judge how influential the paper is the number of people that have cited it. And when you click on the citation information, it will bring you to a list of all kinds of things that have cited this paper. So this is another way to get a sense of who is participating in this background conversation. Okay, of course you always can use non-peer-reviewed sources. Oftentimes, some of the most interesting and influential people in this topic write in public venues, not just peer-reviewed academic journals. For example, the New York Times has a regular column called The Stone, where professional philosophers write short argumentative pieces. So here are some of the latest, including, interestingly, a paper on the topic of the treatment of animals. The number one thing you should be looking for is arguments that have identifiable authors, and ideally you're looking for authors who are likely to be credible. Now, of course, what we ultimately care about is the quality of the argument, but you're more likely to find good arguments from qualified sources. And if you're writing a philosophy paper looking for people participating in a background conversation about a philosophical topic, then philosophers, contemporary philosophers, professors, are likely to be reputable sources. Not sources like the World Bank is a good source for facts about extreme poverty, but sources that will give you something interesting to engage with in your paper. Okay, let's try Googling a philosophical question. Now, if you can straightforwardly Google the answer to your question, it's probably not a very interesting question and it's probably not worth writing about. What we're looking for is other people who are participating in a conversation about this topic, other ways of answering this question. So the first thing we get is an ad for an animal sort of rights charity, it looks like, and you'll probably find arguments here, but this probably isn't the kind of source we're looking for. You can find arguments and analyze and evaluate them from any manner of sources, but again, we're looking for sources who are likely to provide good and interesting arguments. The next result is from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. We've already talked about that. And not surprisingly, a bit down, we've got something from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy as well. What else turns up? There's a link to an article in Aeon magazine. Let's check that out. Okay, so author information. We've got something written by a professor of philosophy, so this looks like it might be the kind of thing we're looking for, and maybe we check out what kind of publication this is to get a sense of who publishes here and on what topics are they likely to be relevant to the kinds of things you're writing about. We also have results from the BBC, Maybe we could check those out. And I also see results coming from websites ending in edu. One thing you might find is professors who are teaching a course that covers the kind of topic you're writing about, who are posting their syllabi or papers that they've assigned to their students. Those aren't bad things to read. So here's a PDF of a paper that might be the kind of thing you're looking for. So likely to be a good source. Here we have sort of this is the BBC link, just sort of a showcase of different kinds of articles. Is there an author, an identifiable author for this? No, it doesn't mean you can't reference these arguments or present them and then go on to analyze and evaluate them. It depends on your task, what kind of assignment you've been given, but generally work by identifiable authors who are likely to have something interesting to say, who are important voices in a background conversation relevant to the paper you've been assigned to write. That's the kind of thing you're looking for. Okay, that concludes my quick overview on doing research for a philosophy paper.